In our previous 3 parts, we've been looking at epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue has cells that touch. It is avascular, no blood vessel in here. It has connection, attachment, and it always has a free surface. And it comes in 2 flavors. Simple, meaning 1 layer, or stratified, meaning 2 layers. Now the simple epithelial we looked at was simple squamosal, which is the squished one, cuboidal, which is the cube-shaped one, and columnar, which is the column-shaped one. We also looked at pseudostratified columnar epithelial, which looks like it's multi-layered because it's a mess. In reality, the cells do go all the way to the basement membrane. Now the stratified epithelial, we only looked at stratified squamosal and transitional. So, oops, there it is. Stratified squamosal, you have many layers where the top are these shingle-like flat cells. And it is keratinized in the skin. And remember, that was the one I promised would be on your test. They will ask you where stratified squamosal is. And you have unkeratinized in the esophagus, mouth, and adult vagina. Then transitional, the other mess, the one students hate. This one is amorphic cells, weird shapes. Key point is it's stretchy. It is in your urinary bladder, which stretches. Your ureters, which stretch out also. So on the test for these, I'll ask you characteristics. In lecture, in lab, I'll give you a picture of them. We're now going to look at connective tissue. You'll be able to identify the different types in lab. You'll be able to define matrix, it's not a movie, and identify what the matrix is in blood, bone, and cartilage, as well as fat and other tissues. You will match the function of the types of tissue with their name, and you'll list the characteristics and give 2 reasons why blood is a connective tissue. What the heck? So connective tissue. It's found everywhere in the body. It is the most common type of tissue. It's also the most diverse group. Up here, we have areolar connective tissue that has all this space and gaps. This is dense regular connective tissue. I almost drew red on red, I'm sorry. That has these fibers that are densely packed. We have adipose connective tissue that has the nucleus there, then this inclusion of a lipid droplet. So it's a very diverse group. Bone is a connective tissue as well. So it binds body tissues together. How does blood bind tissues together? It connects tissues, it goes everywhere, supports the body, blood takes nutrients everywhere, provides protection, white blood cells. That sounds like blood's a connective tissue. Whereas adipose here, that's the one that should probably be kicked out. So, characteristics. Cells rarely touch due to this matrix again. So here's the blood cells. There's a blood cell, there's a blood cell, there's a blood cell. There's all this fluid between them. So all of this in between, that's the matrix. Matrix is made up of non-living fibers and fluid. So the fluid in blood is plasma. Now, where do you see fibers in blood? When you get a cut, clotting. Now, for most connective tissues, the matrix is made by the cells. Blood, it's not made by the cells, but in most, it's made by the cells. So the matrix is non-living fibers and fluid, and that makes the cells rarely touch. In epithelial tissue, the cells always touch and have little matrix. The cells typically do not have a free surface. So I am going to draw a cartilage called hyaline cartilage, and you have these little cavities called lacuna, and they have chondrocytes in them. Those are cartilage cells, and all this out here is the matrix. So all of this blue, the highlighter tool really did not like me here, would be the matrix. So cells do not have a free surface, and it's the most diverse group. Didn't I say that on the last slide? Let's underline that a few more times. It includes blood, fat, tendons, and bones. And its blood and nerve supply varies. Cartilage has no blood in it. Bone, on the other hand, has a great blood supply. So, what is extracellular matrix? Well, this is the areolar connective tissue that we looked at. There's this black fiber right here, and this is probably elastic fiber. There's another black fiber in this tissue called reticular fiber. And then there's a thicker red fiber. Let's try this highlighter tool. So see these thicker red fibers? Okay, this highlighter tool likes me. So these are fibers. So all connective tissue has protein fibers. Couldn't resist. Now, the protein fibers are either collagen fibers. So these red ones are the collagen ones. Elastic fibers. The black ones in this one are probably elastic fibers. Or reticular fibers. This phosphorescent image, these are the reticular fibers. Allegedly, there's reticular fibers in here. I don't really see many of them. It's really hard since they look just like elastic fibers. At least in this stain they do. Then it's made of ground substance. Ground substance is a horrible word. I would like to have several rude words with the person who came up with that name. So what the heck is ground substance? Ground substance fills the space between cells. So here, we have a cell there, we have a cell here. All of this is space between cells. In this case, it's a lipid droplet. Now here's bone. All these black dots are the cells. So this yellow right here, that would be the ground substance. That is the some sort of calcium salt. Now in most of the connective tissues, it's a combination of protein and carbohydrates that attract water to it. So in this areolar connective tissue, the ground substance has polysaccharides and protein, and water is attracted. It's actually in your palpebral dermis, so it's in your skin. And just think, if you're sad, you're studying anatomy on a Saturday night because you have a test coming up and you're eating potato chips, you're going to swell up. And that's because there's salts being made by this tissue and in their ground substance, and it attracts water. So, then there's fibers. The collagen fibers are these thick, they usually stay nice and pink fibers, and they do not branch. So my favorite is dense regular. In dense regular connective tissue, I got these collagen fibers that just do a regular pattern like this. That's why it's called dense regular. So these are all collagen fibers that are not branched. And I'd have fibroblasts like there and there. The second type is elastic. So this is again is areolar connective tissue. And here's elastic fibers. Now the elastic fibers branch out. So it's a very branchy one. And elastic fibers are elastic. They stretch and recoil. So collagen fibers, they don't really like stretching. So you've heard stretch marks. That's actually collagen fibers that have ripped. I know, lovely, isn't it? Where elastic fibers allow stretchability. The third one is reticular fibers. Now, reticular fibers are in organs where you have blood flow through them, and they have cells anchored to them. So there are going to be cells anchored to this. So fluid is going to move through this tissue right here, and the cells are going to do something with it. So it's thinner than collagen. It forms meshworks, and it's found in organs where you have space and flow through, such as lymph nodes, the spleen, the liver. It's allegedly in areolar connective tissue. I've never seen it on a slide, though. Usually it has, the slides I've seen have the cells attached to the fibers. So those are the fibers. Now, we talked about cells, and in the previous lab, or lecture, and we have cells again. So I'm going to go over the 5 main types of cells. Our default cell is the fibroblast. Fibro, fiber, blast, build. So the fibroblast is going to make fiber and ground substances in most of the tissues. So back here, where I drew my dense regular, here's the fiber. Those would be the fibroblasts building the fiber. Over here are my fibers. Those would be the fibroblasts inside the tissue. Now, bone is too good to be a default tissue. It has osteocytes. Cyte means cell. What's osteoporosis? Your bones are full of holes. So osteo is bone, cyte is cell. Chondrocytes, remember chondro is cartilage, are just cartilage cells. So in my cartilage picture, these cells here would be the chondrocytes. Adipocytes, cyte is cell, adipo is fat. And if you Google search and spell it wrong, you're going to get a cute Doctor Who monster, but adipocytes are fat cells. Then mesenchymal cells. These are pluripotent stem cells. Pluripotent means can make anything. They haven't been assigned a role yet. So your book also introduces osteoblasts. Remember we said osteo is bone, blast is build. Chondroblasts, chondro is cartilage. We'll talk about this in another chapter. Then there's wandering cells. Look what it says right here. You are not tested on these yet. These are connective tissue cells that move around. Macrophages, they're garbage disposals. They go around and they clean up debris. Neutrophils are another white blood cell, and you have a lot of these in your lymph nodes. They attack bacteria. You have lymphocytes. Those are white blood cells that attack a specific invader. So when I was a kid, you had chickenpox parties. Somebody had chickenpox, everyone had a part. Slept over at their house, and then the teacher had the best week ever the next week because everyone was homesick. So people in my generation have lymphocytes because they were exposed to the chickenpox virus, looking for chickenpox. And whenever it rears its little capsid head, the lymphocyte bonks it and kills it, and you don't have an active infection. Most of you guys are young enough, you got the chickenpox vaccine. Then mast cells, nobody likes them. They make histamine. They're found in your eyes and your nose. Yes, they make your eyes and nose water. They're actually supposed to initiate an immune response. So, what are things found in the matrix? Mr. Smith and Mr. Pink, that's Reservoir Dogs. No, that's not it. Ground substance and protein fibers. I think it might be that one. Beta-actin and myosin. We haven't heard about that one yet. Water and minerals. Nope, there's a better category. This was the ground substance. So it must be that one. Which is not a characteristic. Cells do not touch. Check. Blood supply varies. Check. All cells have a free surface. Nope. It is C. That describes an epithelial tissue. So we're going to look at proper connective tissue in our next video. Thank you.